Imagine this, right? You're just scrolling, minding your own business, and boom, a video pops up. It's someone famous, someone you look up to maybe, an actor, a leader. And they're saying or doing something just completely wild, outrageous, totally not them. Your first reaction? Probably shock, right? Maybe anger. You feel kind of betrayed even. So you share it, you talk about it, it goes everywhere. And then maybe a few hours later, you find out it wasn't real at all, completely faked. How does that feel? What does that do to your trust in what you see online? Not just then, but like going forward.
Yeah, that's not just a what if anymore, is it? That's happening. People are experiencing that exact thing. The lines are blurring. No, they're dissolving fast.
Yeah.
And that feeling, that sense of betrayal, it's becoming, well, pretty common.
Exactly. And that feeling, that whole unsettling reality, that's what we're diving into today on the deep dive. We're going deep into this world, fascinating, but also pretty unnerving, where data, images, audio, it can all be crafted so well that telling truth from fiction, it's getting incredibly hard. Our sources for this, they're pretty varied. We're looking at ethical visualization discussions, the fine lines between persuasion and manipulation, and some really solid research on the psychosocial side of deepfakes.
Right. And our mission here really is to unpack the ethics behind how information gets presented to us now. We want to explore that line, sometimes it feels invisible, between persuading someone ethically and, well, manipulating them. And definitely, we need to look hard at deepfake technology, how it's changing our perception of reality, especially in entertainment, and what all of this actually means for you, for everyone consuming media every day.
Because we all do, right? Constantly. Yeah. News, movies, social media, it's everywhere. So understanding these dynamics, it isn't just like an academic thing. It's crucial for staying informed, for being able to critically assess all the stuff shaping our world. So yeah, let's get into it.
Let's do it. And to really get a handle on the ethics here, which are getting, frankly, more tangled all the time, we should probably start with the basics. Like, how is information even shown to us?
Yeah.
Especially visually. Visualizations are powerful.
Okay, yeah, good starting point. The old saying, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words. And when you're talking about complex data, wow, is that true? Think about the difference. Our source had this great example. Imagine a big table, nodes of numbers, comparing U.S. states' college degree percentages versus per capita income. Alabama, 20.6%, $11,480. Alaska, 27.1%, $17,011, row after row.
Yeah, it's just dense. Your eyes just glaze over, don't they?
Yeah.
You can maybe find a specific number if you hunt for it, but seeing the bigger picture, the patterns, the outliers, forget it. Your brain just isn't wired to process raw numbers like that efficiently. It's like looking at sheet music note by note instead of hearing the song.
Exactly. But then, same data, put it in a simple scatter plot. Instantly different. You see it. You see the relationship. Clusters of states pop out. The outliers are obvious. You can immediately see, okay, higher education generally means higher income. And you also see the exceptions right there visually.
And that's the cognitive efficiency we're talking about. It's huge. Good visualizations, they just reveal patterns, relationships, trends so much faster, more intuitively than just numbers on a page. Our brains are visual processing machines, basically. That's why these tools are so valuable. They unlock insights that would otherwise stay hidden or take ages to figure out. It's about turning data into actual understanding, fast.
Right. So the power is undeniable. Clarity, speed, insight. Got it. But, and here's the twist, right? What happens when that powerful picture, that tool for clarity, goes rogue? When it misleads you? Maybe by accident, maybe not.
This is where we hit the deceptive side. Our source on ethical visualization really digs into this. There are definitely design patterns, choices you can make that lead to misleading charts, intentionally or not. And the key takeaway, this is so important for designers and for you, the person looking at the chart, is critical thinking. Thinking critically about the data and how it's shown is way more important than just blindly following a set of design rules. Rules help, but context is king.
That's a really key point. No simple checklist is going to save us. We have to actually think. So the big questions for this whole deep dive really become what makes a visualization deceptive? And on the flip side, what makes it ethical?
Okay, so to tackle that, we can look at different ethical frameworks, ways of thinking about right and wrong in this context. Our source goes through a few and acknowledges, it's not black and white. Understanding these frameworks helps us see the tensions, the real-world trade-offs designers face. And it helps us, as viewers, be more critical.
All right, let's start with one. Consequentialist ethics. This one's all about the outcome, right? The idea is an action is ethical if it leads to good consequences, like utilitarianism, the greatest good for the greatest number.
Exactly. So apply that to a visualization. A good chart, in this view, would be one that has the most benefits for the least cost. Sounds simple enough, right? You want your chart to be clear, help people understand something important, maybe lead to good decisions. If a climate change graph helps millions grasp the urgency and leads to better policy, that's ethically good based on its consequences.
But hang on, there are problems there, aren't there? Like, how do we even define good consequences? Good for whom? Is it just about understanding quickly? Or long-term accuracy? Or the actions people take? And who gets to decide what's good? Their biases could totally skew that measurement.
Spot on. And then there's a timing issue. When do we stop measuring? Do you only look at the immediate impact or the ripple effects down the line? A chart might seem persuasive now, maybe it gets a project approved. But what if, long-term, it fosters mistrust because it oversimplified things? The long-term negative consequences might dwarf the short-term good. So consequentialism gets tricky fast.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the next one, deontological ethics? This feels more rule-based, like an action is right or wrong based on whether it follows the rules, the duties, regardless of the outcome.
That's it. It's about principle, about adherence to rules. And in visualization, this brings us straight to Edward Tufte, a big name in the field, and his concept of the lie factor, LF. But the formula is pretty neat. Lie factor, size of effect shown in the graphic, size of effect in the actual data. Tufte's view, very deontological, is strict. If LF doesn't equal exactly 1, the visualization is dishonest, period.
Wow, exactly one. That's strict. And the source mentioned an example with an LF of 2.8. That means the graphic was exaggerating the real effect by almost 3 times. That's huge. We see that all the time, right? Bar charts not starting at 0, making tiny differences look massive, or using weirdly sized icons.
Definitely. That's a clear violation of the rule. Deontology is pretty clear-cut. Follow the rule or it's unethical.
Yeah.
But even here, it gets nuanced. The source talks about white lies in visualization, like maybe a tiny deviation from perfect accuracy makes a chart much easier for a general audience to grasp quickly. Is that okay? It serves clarity, maybe. But a strict deontologist would say, no, it breaks the rule, it's dishonest, even if it's a white lie.
And that leads to the problems with just relying on rules, doesn't it? First off, where do these rules even come from? Who made them? Are they always the right rules for every situation? And can rules change? Especially with tech moving so fast, what was a rule yesterday might not make sense today. Plus, you get edge cases, right, where following the rule strictly might actually make the chart more confusing or even misleading in that specific context. It's rarely simple.
Precisely. Which is why we need multiple perspectives, that critical thinking again. Okay, next up, virtue ethics. This one shifts the focus. It judges an action based on whether it cultivates good character traits or virtues in the person doing it, the designer.
So a good visualization here is one made by someone acting virtuously, like honestly, clearly responsibly. It's less about the outcome or the rule and more about the designer's intention and character. Did they try to be truthful and clear?
That's the core idea. But again, challenges arise. What exactly are the right virtues? Do we all agree? And what happens when virtues clash? Like, the virtue of clarity might conflict with the virtue of completeness. If you simplify too much for clarity, are you sacrificing honesty about the complexity? Which virtue wins? And are some things just never okay? Like completely making up data, even if you argue it serves some virtue, like making a point forcefully, probably not, right?
Yeah, seems like there have to be some lines. Okay, last one, role ethics. This sounds like it's about fulfilling your professional obligations, doing what's expected of you in your job.
Exactly. This is where professional standards really come in. The source mentioned something really powerful, a visualization Hippocratic oath, proposed by Jason Moore. It basically says, I won't use visualization to intentionally hide or confuse the truth. I respect its power to enlighten and mislead. I accept this responsibility.
Wow, that's quite a commitment. It makes you think of other professional codes, like for journalists or engineers. The SPJ code, the ACM code, they lay out duties. So under role ethics, a good visualization fulfills those duties based on your professional role and the standards that come with it.
That's the idea. If you're a data journalist, your role demands accuracy, fairness, minimizing harm. Your visualizations should reflect that.
Okay, but the same questions kind of pop up, don't they? Who defines the role and its duties?
Yeah.
What if you have conflicting roles, like your duty to your client versus your duty to the public? And how far does that duty extend? Just the chart itself or its potential impact? It's still complex.
It is. No single framework is a silver bullet. They all offer valuable perspectives, highlight different potential pitfalls, but none gives the answer. Which brings us back to critical thinking, but maybe with some better tools now.
So for us, the listener, the person seeing these charts every day, What can we take away? The source had those practical questions from Berkeley Haas. They seem really useful, not just for designers.
Yeah, they're great as a sort of personal ethics check. Let me list them. Would I be happy for this decision to be on the public record? What would happen if everybody did this? That's a big one. How would I like it if someone did this to me? The golden rule, basically. Will the proposed course of action bring about a good result? That's consequentialist thinking. What will it do to my character or my organization's character? Virtue ethics. And is it consistent with my values and principles?
Those are powerful, simple questions, but they force you to think beyond just, does this look okay? Like that truncated y-axis example, asking, what if everybody did this? Makes you realize, wow, information would become totally unreliable. It shifts you from just passively consuming to actively evaluating, which feels essential right now.
Absolutely essential. And that kind of critical evaluation doesn't stop at static charts. It applies directly to how we influence each other. Which leads us straight into that really tricky area. The difference between persuasion and manipulation.
Yeah, this is fascinating. Because they can feel similar sometimes, can't they? Both are about influencing someone, but ethically, worlds apart. We got some great insights here from that Reddit discussion, people sharing real perspectives.
It's a good source for grounding this. And the consensus seemed to be it boils down to intent and method, not just what you're trying to achieve, but how and why.
Okay, let's break that down. Persuasion first. The ethical one, characterized by openness, right? Transparent intent. You're clear about your goal. Like the lawyer in court everyone knows are trying to persuade the jury, no secrets there. Or a scientist presenting research, their goal is to convince you based on the evidence. It's upfront.
And the method is primarily logic logos, presenting reasons, evidence, arguments that appeal to intellect, to rational thought. You lay out your case, aiming for the other person to follow your reasoning, and ideally agree based on their own judgment. It respects their intelligence, their autonomy.
And the outcome. Respect for their decision. You provide the info, the argument, but the choice is theirs. You're guiding with reason, not forcing.
Now, contrast that with manipulation. The key here is covert intent. Sneaky, hiding the real goal. That Reddit example was good. The friend subtly bad-mouthing your partner to try and cause a breakup without ever saying, I want you to break up. The true agenda may be jealousy, maybe control is hidden under a mask of concern.
And the method, it's different too, leans heavily on emotion, right? Pathos, playing on fears, hopes, insecurities, or leveraging credibility ethos, maybe falsely, or using partial truths, just showing the bits that support their hidden goal.
It's all about bypassing critical thinking, getting straight to the feelings, or exploiting trust to override the person's own judgment, often without them even realizing it.
So the crucial distinction, as one therapist pointed out, manipulation can be persuasive, it can work, but ethical persuasion doesn't have to be manipulative. It's about whether you're guiding via reason or steering via emotion and hidden agendas.
Exactly. Are you helping them see, or are you pulling strings?
So how does this connect back to visuals? How can a chart or even a video cross that line?
Well, think about it. A chart designer can use selective data. Only show the years where profits went up. Ignore the downturns.
Yeah.
There's a partial truth, right? Manipulative. Or use biased scales. Make a tiny blip look like a mountain, or a huge crisis look like a minor dip. That plays on perception, bypasses rational scale. And with video or dynamic media, add dramatic music, use quick cuts, show emotionally charged images. All designed to evoke a feeling, an immediate reaction, rather than allowing thoughtful consideration of the facts. It's steering emotion.
Yeah, okay. And that leads us directly to, well, what feels like the ultimate tool for this kind of deception right now, deepfakes. It takes everything we've discussed, the visual ethics, the persuasion manipulation line, and just cranks it up to 11.
It really does. Deepfakes, the name itself tells you, right? Deep learning plus fake. It's sophisticated AI using neural networks, often these things called GANs, generative adversarial networks. Basically, you have one AI trying to make fakes and another AI trying to spot them. They train each other, getting better and better at an incredible rate. The result, images, videos, audio that look and sound incredibly real, but are completely fabricated. And spotting them, getting seriously tough.
Mind-bogglingly real. But like a lot of powerful tech, it's got that dual nature, doesn't it? Huge potential for innovation, but also a massive ethical minefield.
Absolutely. On the innovation side, especially in entertainment, there are some cool possibilities. Think about digitally bringing back actors who've passed away for new roles, kind of giving them an artistic afterlife, or swapping faces for creative effect, enhancing special effects, maybe even lowering production costs in some cases.
Yeah, the source mentioned The Irishman, Scorsese's film. They use that digital de-aging tech, like deepfakes, on De Niro, Pacino, Pesci. Made them look decades younger for parts of the film. That wasn't just a gimmick. It helped the storytelling across different time periods and apparently saved money, too.
So there are definite creative and practical upsides. Hollywood's interested for sure. But the ethical concerns, they are huge and deeply troubling. Using someone's face, their voice, their likeness without permission, that's a fundamental violation of privacy and autonomy. And then there's the obvious use for spreading fake news, disinformation, propaganda. It's incredibly effective for that.
And we're seeing it already. Those cases in 2024 with Rashmika Mandanna, Katrina Kaif, their images manipulated and spread online without consent. The potential for harm is just immediate and very real.
Which brings us squarely to the psychosocial impact. What does this do to us, to you, the audience, and to society? Fundamentally, deepfakes just shred the line between real and fake. It becomes incredibly hard to know if anything you see is authentic. Leaked video, news report, promotional ad. That foundational trust is eroded.
And that constant uncertainty, it has real emotional and behavioral consequences. The source talks about increased anxiety, even paranoia, people struggling to figure out what's true. You end up having to make decisions, maybe important ones, based on information you can't actually verify. That's stressful.
And the personal harm, if it's your image being used, it's devastating. Emotional distress, feeling violated, reputational damage. It leads to this deep lack of trust, not just in media, but potentially everywhere. It's an attack on your identity.
And zooming out, it causes this massive erosion of media credibility overall.
When deepfakes are everywhere, people naturally become skeptical of all media. News, documentaries, even ads. That uncertainty undermines our shared sense of reality, our ability to make informed choices as a society.
Like that example, a fake video of a celebrity doing something bad. Even if it's debunked later, the damage is often done. Public opinion shifts, careers can be ruined, the lie travels faster than the truth.
And the broader societal implications are genuinely frightening. Deepfakes can easily fuel misrepresentation, amplify biases, deepen social and political divides. They pose a serious threat to trust, to information integrity, even to democratic processes if voters are swayed by fabricated content.
Let's make this even more concrete with some of those real-world examples. These aren't hypotheticals.
Okay, first, that Taylor Swift-Le Creuset scam. A deepfake video looked like her, sounded like her, promoting a fake giveaway to steal fans' data and money. Shows how it's used for straight-up financial fraud, exploiting trust.
The Rashmika Mandanna case we mentioned, her likeness stolen, used without consent, highlights the privacy violation, the personal distress.
Then those viral parodies, Nicki Minaj, Tom Holland, Mark Zuckerberg, maybe seemed funny to some, but they showed just how easy it is now to create convincing fakes. Raises alarms about misuse when the intent isn't parody.
And the Italian PM Giorgia Meloni case? Her face put onto explicit content, just horrific.
Shows the weaponization of deepfakes as non-consensual pornography, often targeting women, and the desperate need for legal recourse. Finally, those incredibly realistic Tom Cruise deepfakes, they were so good they freaked out security experts. If experts can't tell, how can intelligence agencies verify info? How can anyone trust visual evidence? Shows the tech's power and the potential for major deception.
Okay, this is a lot. Heavy stuff. But what do people, like our listeners, actually think about all this? That survey on the psychosocial impact gave us some really clear answers. 123 respondents, Likert scale. What did they say?
The results were pretty striking. Almost 90%, 89.2% agreed deepfakes have significantly impacted entertainment. People see the change happening.
And personally, the concern level was huge. Over 94%, 94.3% were deeply concerned about the psychological effects.
Yeah, confusion, trust issues, emotional impact. People are feeling it's causing real anxiety.
And that blurring lines idea. 91% agreed deepfakes blur reality and artificiality. That feeling of disorientation is widespread.
The emotional manipulation aspect, too. 86% felt altering images, voices, influences thoughts and emotions. They recognize it's not just about facts, it affects feelings.
And the wider impact, almost 90%, 89.5% said it significantly affects public perception. People get that this isn't just individual, it shapes collective views.
And this one's critical. 86% agreed media credibility suffers when deepfakes circulate. That trust erosion is real and recognized.
But here's a call to action. 96%, almost everyone, agreed media consumers need to be more aware. People feel they need the tools, the knowledge to deal with this.
Yeah, a huge demand for media literacy. And they see the risk to the industry itself. 88% felt deepfakes risk entertainment industry credibility.
And trust in celebrities specifically. Nearly 88% said deepfakes lead to loss of trust in how celebrities are represented.
Though slightly lower, still, nearly 79% agreed deepfakes can negatively influence perception of celebrities, the potential for unfair damage.
And finally, the responsibility question. Almost 90%, 89.5%, agreed the entertainment industry has a duty to educate the public. A clear message.
So, the big picture from the survey.
Oh.
Deepfakes are having a massive psychosocial impact. People are worried about trust, perception, reality itself. And they overwhelmingly want more awareness and feel the industry has a role to play in providing it. It's urgent.
Okay, so given this huge challenge, what can actually be done? How do we navigate this? What are the strategies?
So the first line of defense, echoed in the survey, is enhanced media literacy programs. We need to equip everyone, starting young, with critical thinking skills, not just spotting obvious fakes, but questioning all media, asking those ethical questions, building resilience.
Beyond individual skills, we need systemic change, right? Robust legal and regulatory frameworks.
Absolutely. Laws need to catch up fast, protecting image rights, defining consent in the digital age, prosecuting misuse effectively. We need proactive policies, not just reactive ones.
And the platforms themselves, social media, video sites.
Huge responsibility there. Corporate policies and voluntary action are key. Better moderation, clearer rules, faster takedowns of harmful content, they shape the information environment.
And the tech side. Is there tech to fight tech?
There is. It's an ongoing race. Anti-deepfake technology detection algorithms, digital watermarking, content authentication methods. Researchers are working hard on tools to spot and trace fakes.
But even with all that, why are we so susceptible? Why do these things work on us? There must be psychological reasons.
There are. Our sources touched on a few theories, like social cognitive theory we learn by observing. Seeing deepfakes normalizes them, subtly shapes our attitudes, even if we know they're fake.
And selective exposure theory, we tend to seek out info that confirms what we already believe.
Right. So if a deepfake aligns with your bias against someone, you're more likely to believe it, share it, reinforcing your own views and spreading the misinformation.
What about the elaboration likelihood model?
That explains how much we think about something. If we're highly involved, we scrutinize, central route. If we're just casually scrolling, we rely on surface cues, like how realistic the fake looks, peripheral route. Makes us vulnerable when we're not paying close attention.
And media effects theory talks about the bigger picture.
Yeah, how media shapes agendas, frames issues. Deepfakes are a powerful tool for that, distorting reality perception on a mass scale, eroding overall trust.
Lastly, uses and gratification theory.
Reminds us we consume media for reasons, entertainment, curiosity. We might watch deepfakes for fun, but that still exposes us to potential misinformation or harmful stereotypes if we're not careful. Even entertainment carries risks.
Okay, pulling this all together, that survey finding about the entertainment industry's duty to educate, that 89.5% figure feels really significant.
It is. It's not just about damage control for their stars. It's fundamental. Their entire business model relies on audience trust, engagement, belief. If deepfakes destroy that trust, the industry itself is threatened. So, proactive education, transparency, it's becoming essential for their own survival, let alone for the audience's well-being.
We've covered a lot of ground today, a real deep dive. Started with the ethics of just showing data visually, the power and the pitfalls. Then unpacked that tricky line between persuading ethically and manipulating sneakily. And spent a lot of time on deepfakes, the tech, the good, the bad, and the really significant psychosocial fallout.
Yeah, the impact on trust, on our sense of reality, it's undeniable. The survey confirmed how widespread that concern is, and it highlights this urgent need for media literacy, for better regulations, for responsibility across the board, individuals, companies, governments.
So, as we wrap up, here's the final thought. Technology isn't slowing down. These artificial realities, these illusions, they're only going to get more convincing. So how do we collectively navigate a future where seeing is believing feels, well, increasingly naive? And maybe more importantly, what's the personal responsibility each of us has to actively sharpen our own critical thinking, to resist manipulation in a world where truth itself can feel manufactured?
That's the question we all need to be asking ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you stay grounded when reality itself seems up for grabs?